Paltrocast. Thank you for taking the time. Good morning, right? It's the absolute earliest morning for you right now, right? 6 a.m.?
Yeah, 6 a.m. is not too bad at all. It's I wake up early anyway, so that's fine.
Wow. Were you always this way? Because punk rock people usually get up at 2 or 3.
I have to tell you, Darren, I'm not punk rock at all. I've got 2 kids and I've got a family, so I wake up early to make lunch, you know, um, breakfast and lunch for them and stuff, and get them ready for school anyway. So fine.
Well, stylistically, you're still punk rock, even though you're showing Thin Lizzy influence on one of the new singles.
Oh, we love Thin Lizzy. Yeah, I think we just happen to play punk rock, but I think as people, we're not really pure punk people. A lot of my friends are like that. We grew up in the suburbs. We don't have that. We don't have that punk rock mentality. I think we're more like classic rock people that happen to like a lot of punk. So we just kind of drifted into it when punk was happening because it was kind of a lot of fun, you know.
Right. Well, my first exposure to your band was the very exciting album. I was sent it to be reviewed for this punk rock scene here in New York. And then a couple years later, I saw that you were collaborating with one of my favorite comedians, Neil Hamburger. And then suddenly you realize, wow, Hard-Ons is a legendary band. And this is fantastic stuff. But in the US, unfortunately, it's a cult thing. When's the last time you got over to the States?
Sadly, we haven't been there since 2006, which is a hell of a long time ago when you think about it. It's like 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too. We'd love to go there again really soon. We love playing the States because it's like a parallel universe. It's very similar to Australia in a lot of ways, but it's I don't know if you've been to Australia, but it's completely different. The States is a different to any other place we've ever been to, but at the same time, it's very familiar because we've seen it on TV, and it's like obviously the world's most influential country. So we know all about it, but at the same time, it's still a shock when we get there how different it is to Australia.
Some of our best friends here in New York are originally from Australia. And the way they describe Australia, they're from New South Wales originally, is that
Right.
there's the coasts and then there's the middle of the country, politically, culturally, et cetera. And it's the same kind of thing in the States where what happens on the coasts is usually very different than the whole middle of the country.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, I've got friends in Portland, Oregon. I've got friends in Los Angeles, and I've got lots of friends in New York actually. And they think quite differently to uh, they what they're saying is they don't really think similarly to people from say Mobile, Alabama, for example. But I have friends in also Austin, Texas, and they seem to be very similar to people from New York to me.
Yeah, they say that there's Texas and then there's Austin. So
Yeah.
it's the outlier. Back to the fact that you have these 2 new singles. Are they from a forthcoming full-length album or EP?
Those 2 singles are from that an album called Ripper 23, which is that should be coming out very soon in the States, as far as I know.
Through Golden Robot Records in the States?
That's right, yes.
Golden Robot is fascinating to me because it's full of artists who have toured at a big level, artists who've had big record deals, but now they own their masters and call their own shots. So, in other words, legacy artists who are still making great music like yourself. When did you kind of realize, hey, let's control our own career and not worry about the charts?
Uh that was when I think I think the Hard-Ons have been like that from day one. We've never worried about the charts because uh, we called the band the Hard-Ons, which just meant that when we first started, we just could not crack the charts at all. I mean, we sold enough records to make the charts at the time, but uh, the charts you know, I mean, we didn't get played on radio. We were never on television because of the name of the band. Especially 40 years ago, it was considered reasonably offensive.
Yeah.
But and also the fact that by and large, just in Australia, the music industry showed, you know, we although we were at one stage quite popular, more popular than the bands that were appearing on TV, really. We just didn't really get much interest from the mainstream music industry. So, you know, we always felt like we were not really a part of anything. We just always felt like we were just on our own. Even with the whole idea of punk rock. I mean, when we started, most of the bands had you know, kind of like spiky hair and stuff like that for punk rock. We just didn't have that kind of stuff, and we always had long hair and stuff. So it just felt like we didn't really belong anywhere. But uh, I don't think it's the most important thing, belonging somewhere. It's good to it's good to be like what's the word?
Your own
And
island.
yeah, you're an outcast or whatever.
Right. A cottage industry, a niche, uh, whatever you want to call it, your band is still doing that all these years later. And with Mr. UMI himself joining the band, one thing I can never figure out, how exactly did that happen?
Um, well, when we started playing a lot of shows and stuff, one of the young kids that used to come and see us play was Tim from UMI. He was like a fan of the band, and so we became friends when he was a teenager. And I guess we would have been in our early 20s, and he was a teenager. He's a few years younger than us, and so we've been friends for like 35 years, maybe longer. So we've had a friendship for a long time, but we kind of didn't see each other for a long time because I'm not sure about the his profile in the States, but in Australia he's quite busy, you know, because he has a high profile. So um, we our paths didn't cross too much, if you know what I mean. Um, so when we did catch up every now and then, it was always really good to see him. So one day, just out of the blue, I just called him and said, "Look, I haven't spoken to you for maybe you know, a whole year, but would you want to sing on our new album?" And he said yes straight away. But we've been friends for a long, long time, and he knows the band really well.
Mhm.
Um, so he's very familiar with the our back catalog. He knows all the songs from, you know. I mean, the band's had a lot of records out, but he seemed to know every song from every record. So he was a perfect person to join the band, except for the fact that he's actually obviously really busy. So
Yes.
yeah, he's always doing something, which is, I mean, which is a great thing as well. I mean, he's yeah, he's a very talented young man. Well, he's not that young anymore, but are you and I quite popular in the States? And I think they should be because they seem to tour there reasonably often.
It's the kind of thing where whatever the profile is in Australia and the UK, it's more of a niche thing. So, in other words, if
Right.
they're playing to 15,000 people a night in Australia, it's probably playing to 1,000 people here. But the records came out on major labels situations here in the States. It's just it
Right.
didn't crack. And my theory would be it's very expensive to get a band from Australia to the States and put them on tour when all the equipment has to be freighted, there's crew salaries, etc. So at a certain point, the major label goes, are we going to put our money to this or put our money into the band that is already here? So I think that we have a history of Australian bands who are arena bands in the native land and then come over here and it's a club band. Like, for example, The Living End, uh, club band here in the States.
Yes.
Grinspoon, club band. But if you know do your research, you see, wow, these bands are playing to 30,000 people at festivals and stadiums, and then 300 people here in the States. It's this weird existence where your legends here and cult heroes here, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. That does make a lot of sense. But and also in a lot of cases, I think Australian bands are so uniquely Australian, and they sing about Australian things, and they sound Australian, so that might not resonate on a major scale with um, people from other countries, but they're very popular here. I mean, Greenspoon and Living End, like I mean, almost every single person in Australia knows the names of those bands here.
But in the case of the Chats, I think
Mhm.
they're so over the top Australian that it appeals to everybody, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah. That effect would be something like Crocodile Dundee, you
Yes.
know. Yeah, so it's like taking Crocodile Dundee and people's idea of what Australia is in a caricatured and cartoon kind of a way, and apply that to very catchy punk rock, and then give it to the rest of the world, and they understand it because it's been presented in a direct, caricatured way. There is no little nuances that might be lost. It's completely uh, in your face and understandable. It's similar to what um, y- well, Paul Hogan and uh, um,
Yeah.
uh, the movie was about. But I have to say, I'm a big fan of the Chats.
Oh, yeah.
Firstly, they're incredibly nice people, and secondly, the music is so catchy that it's hard to dislike.
Yeah. If I was going to do the Mount Rushmore, to use an American term, of Australian stereotypes that people think are real but aren't, I would say Crocodile Dundee, the Chats, Foster's Beer, and the Outback Steakhouse. And
Yes, yes.
but hey, back to you in the Hard-Ons. What's coming up besides the new record and the singles? Is it festival season coming up within the next 6 months? That steady
Uh,
kind of touring?
well, we have to basically, quite frankly, we have to regroup. We have to uh, we have to figure out when. At the moment, Tim's touring a lot with his other projects, our lead singer. So at the moment, we've retreated to all of us have retreated to our personal music projects, other than the Hard-Ons, and also um, uh, the three of us, me, the guitar player, and the drummer, in the studio, getting new songs together all the time.
Mhm.
We're just waiting to figure out what we're going to do based on Tim's availability.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we're unsure about what shows we have coming up. But the moment Tim is able to tell us, I have this time available, will just do whatever we can, whether it might be going to Japan, Europe, or the States. Um, but we'd love to. But a big plan would be to come to the States for sure. We'd love to go. We haven't been there for such a long time, and uh, even if we play like one show, I'd like to go there because it's such a fascinating place.
For better and for worse, it is. So if we can summarize, Tim is basically in excess to Jimmy Barnes is to Hard-Ons to Tim, where you go, I don't know what he's doing. Can we get him? I don't know.
Um, well, we kind of do know, and he's very do know what he's doing, and his calendar seems to be very full.
Yeah.
So I'd say there's a we're trying to shoehorn him into maybe touring the States later in the year, next year. Yeah, we'd love to go. We don't necessarily have to go to say Des Moines, Iowa, but
Unless there's a really good offer. If there's a really good offer, only Des Moines. You're doing a casino residency in Des Moines.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the reason I say this is because it's looking like we can't tour. The last time we toured USA, it was for 4 weeks, but it's more likely that we could only go for, say, 2 weeks because of schedule of everyone's lives and things like that.
Right.
But but I've looked at the map of the states, and it's a very big country, and there are a lot of big cities to travel to. So I think what we would do is probably stick to places like New York and uh, places where we know there will be interest in the band, like Baltimore. We seem to get a lot of emails from people there. Uh, San Francisco, Los Angeles. We would probably play, if we could. We'd go to Austin because we seem to get a lot of. Last time we played Austin, it was really successful.
Hmm.
Um, it was very successful in places like I mean, it was very successful in places like Portland, Oregon, for example. That we seem to do really well there.
Hmm.
Um, so we'd like to play places where we know there'll be people turning up. I mean, so no disrespect to Des Moines, Iowa at all. I mean, I've only been there a couple of times in my life, and uh, but yeah, we just wanted to go to places where we know we could do reasonably well, if you know what I
The
mean.
same places, sorry to interrupt you, the same places Neil Hamburger would do really well because people get it, and that's that.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, Neil, he's my all-time favorite comedian, and
Yeah.
even now, when it comes to Australia, when people don't understand him, they get really offended and they
Yes.
yell abuse and stuff, and it just eggs him on. And um, you know, um, the once somebody was, I remember 10 years ago, somebody was absolutely giving it to him from the crowd and screaming at him to get off, and Neil Hamburger just replied, "Please spit the cum out of your mouth before speaking to me, sir." It was so funny.
Yeah, before I ask my last question here, he was brought on tour by Tenacious D at the peak of them playing arenas. And I think the point was just to incite and anger the audience because most of the audience did not know what that was that Neil was doing. So I think when you get it, you're a fan for life, and not everybody
Oh,
gets it, but yeah.
no, no, no. But when the Hard-Ons did a show, and Tenacious D were in town, and both of them turned up to our show, and I went up to both of them and gave the 7-inch record that we did with Neil Hamburger. I gave that to Jack Black and the other guy. I can't remember his
Kyle.
name.
Yeah.
Kyle, yes, and Kyle just looked at it and grunted and walked away. But Jack Black was like, "Oh, thank you," and he was really grateful. You know.
Yeah, and Jack Black's wife, most people don't realize, great musician from a musical family who's had a lot of record deals. So they know music in the Black household.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, he seemed to know the Hard-Ons. He the 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 editor from Rolling Stone rang me, and he said, "Guess who's going to your show?" And I said, "Who?" Tenacious D. I said, "Oh, do you want me to put them on the guest list?" And he said, "No, they've already contacted the venue. They're already on the guest list." And I s- and I said, "I didn't think they would know who the Hard-Ons were." And I thought, "Oh, wait a minute, they've been touring the States with Neil Hamburger, so they would know us through Neil Hamburger." And the editor said, "Oh no, Jack Black already knew you. He was really looking forward to seeing you play." So I was a bit shocked.
So there's a chance when we eventually see you in the United States that a large percentage of the crowd is just celebrities. We'll put that rumor out there that you're the American celebrities' favorite punk band and have been all these years.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to meet more American celebrities.
Well,
I like.
but my last question, which is a dumb one, but you said before that classic rock has been a big part of your musical DNA as opposed to punk. Now, Kiss there were years when Kiss could only tour Australia. They had no following in the US and they couldn't really get tours. Was Kiss one of those bands that made you want to play music early on?
Oh yeah, that was my first love. I love Kiss. Um, they when I was young, I helped put out a tribute record to Kiss with um, lots of different bands doing Kiss covers. The Hard-Ons did one. Nirvana did a song for it, and the
Oh, yeah.
Melvins.
The Come On and is it
It was called
do,
Hard to
do,
Believe. It was,
do You Love Me by Nirvana was on that compilation?
yes, that was the first time that song appeared on that compilation.
You did that.
So I'm sorry.
I can't
Yes,
believe
yes,
you did
I
that.
put that together. I put that together for the Hard-Ons record company at the time, Waterfront Records.
Because that was specifically referenced, I think, by Dave Grohl in an interview a week or two ago. He was on Conan O'Brien, and they were talking about how Steve Albini prank phone called Gene Simmons pretending to be Kurt Cobain. So you're responsible for that, Ray.
Yes, that's right.
So you just created musical history without really realizing that.
No, no, I didn't even really know who Nirvana were. I'd heard of the name of the band, but our record company at the time, Waterfront Records in Sydney, they said there's a band in um, Seattle called Nirvana. They want to be on this compilation, so they're going to be on it. I said, yeah, let's hear it. And I heard the tape and I thought it was fantastic. And they actually Bleach was actually released in Australia on the same label, so we were label mates with Nirvana. But at the time, not many people knew, and we knew Dave, of course. We knew Dave Grohl um, from his other band Scream,
Oh
because
yeah,
the Hard-On had played with Scream in uh, uh, in London, Birmingham. We played with them in a couple of times in the States as well in 1988. So, but at the time when that single came out, Dave wasn't in Nirvana, so I didn't really know any of the people in Nirvana at that time at all. But and they were some obscure band from Seattle at the time. Um, and when Dave joined Nirvana, he came out to Australia, and we caught up and we played with them at this big festival called the Big Day Out Festival, and
yeah.
our lead singer for that show was Henry Rollins from Black Flag, so he was our lead singer for that show, and so it was a pretty great a festival to play at, but yeah, we just um, yeah, we released the record with Henry Rollins doing an AC/DC cover. So Henry came out and he was singing for us at that festival. So it was really bizarre when I think about it. I'm thinking, well, yeah, it was such a long time ago, but it happened, and it was it was weird. I still think about it. I think it's really weird how popular um, Nirvana became, because I just wouldn't have thought that any of the people that I knew personally would become that famous, and that's what happened. I mean, I saw Foo Fighters play, um, and I went backstage to say hello to Dave, and I said, "Did you see how many people were watching you play?" This is a couple of years ago in Australia, maybe 5 or 6 years ago before COVID. And he
Mhm.
said, "Yeah." I said, "I think there were 50,000 people there." And he said, Dave Grohl said to me, "Yeah, I know. Every now and then, I'll look out in the crowd and I think, what's going on?" And he said, "Because I'm still the same guy." And I said, Yeah, I know. It's just really, yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's the same guy."
So summing that all up, the race story here is a lot of bumping into geniuses that you find out are kind of fans and peers of yours. So Tenacious D, Nirvana, Rollins, etc. So it seems like things are just exciting still all these years later for the Hard-Ons. That the best is yet to come in a lot of respects.
Oh, I think we're lucky that we got a good attitude towards the band. I mean, um, we've never thought that we would make a career out of it. We thought it would just be something that we did because we really enjoyed. You know, playing music was something that we really enjoyed, and we never really thought about um, this being anything other than hell of a lot of fun. And, you know, something that's really important to do, but really fun. And so we didn't put any sort of pressure on ourselves to become, you know, famous or anything like that. And in fact, we got rid of that pressure from day one, I think, by calling the band the Hard-Ons, you know, for better or worse. But you know, the whole idea that a band has a lifespan, or, you know, somebody has a use by date is, you know, not necessarily true for a lot of bands. I mean, some bands can continue for a very long time and still play really good music. And hopefully the Hard-Ons are one of those bands. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, and I don't feel that old. I mean, I think the band's better than ever. So, you know, I'd like to continue playing.
Well, thank you for the many years of great art. That's the best way I can sum that up, Ray.
Oh, thank you, Darren. Thank you for having a quick chat with me.
Paltrocast.